Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the studio this evening. So tonight I thought we would try to paint a little boat here, some kind of little rowboat or dinghy. I found a picture online. I'm going to set that up in the corner right there. I'm using Canson watercolor block. It is 6 by 9 inches. I have got my drawing set out already here. Going to use my M-gram paints that I've kind of put together in a travel tin. Here they are. See if I can set that down somewhere in there. And here's my color card. I'm going to set that up at the top so I can tell you what colors that we're going to be using tonight. Then the brushes I'm going to use are these. These are my Winsor Newton Cotman series of brushes. You've seen me use these in other paintings. Without delay, then, let's get to it. I'm going to start by mixing up a little bit of my transparent orange oxide, a little bit of my transparent yellow oxide, a nice earthy color here. I'm going to start by just giving a little bit of color to the inside of the boat here, if I can. I'm going to get a nice mixture here. I don't want that too dark. And I'm going to, actually, I don't know why I grabbed that brush. I want my round brush. This is a number 6 round. I'm just going to grab that. I'm going to drop the paint in here, and I'm not being overly careful with it. I'm going to go back in and put some paint over top of this. So everywhere that is going to be this wood color, I'm just going to put this right in there. We'll come back and we'll add some detail to that in not too long of a time. But I want to get it in there. And I've got this box in the center. I hope you can see it here, that I've kind of drawn in here. It's not quite as big maybe in my drawing as it is in the real picture. That's okay. Because I'm not trying to duplicate that picture, like I always say. I'm not trying to duplicate what's there. I'm trying to give my interpretation of it. Takes a little pressure off of me to try to be perfect. I'm not sure what perfect is, so I don't try to be perfect. I've got you probably just heard me tear off a little bit of paper. Okay, so while I'm doing that, I'm going to look here, try to find out some colors that I can use. And if I can look on the hull of this boat, on the outside of this boat, I've got a lot of greens and blues in here. I'm thinking some, I don't know, I'm going to use some cobalt green. Actually, I've got my colors backwards. Let me put them this way. This edge kind of stays up, so I like to have that in the back. I don't know why I put it backwards. What was I talking about? Oh, yes. Cobalt green. I'm going to get a little bit of cobalt green. And I'm going to get a little bit of cerulean here. I think I'm going to be able to use these two colors on the hull of this boat. Just really light. In here, I'm just going to go right along the bottom of this. I'm not super worried about staying in the lines. I'm worried about staying in the lines, but I'm not super worried about it. I'm not going to stress over it too much because I'm going to come in and I'm going to paint in our water down here, and the water's going to be fairly dark. So if I stay in the lines, that's great. If I don't stay in the lines, I am not going to sweat it. I'll just let it go and happen the way it is. And now I've got my green. I'm just going to drop a little bit of this green in here. I don't want a ton of color on the boat for obvious reasons. It's a white boat. I might need a little bit more than is here, but I hope not too much more. But if we need a little bit more, we can come in a little bit later and add that in. We're not going to worry about it too much. And I'm just letting my color go really light as I get up to the railing, to the top of the boat up here. And I'm painting right over my rope. That's part of this picture. There we go. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to put some of that green in here. If I don't get the green the same on both sides, that's okay. In fact, you know what I can see at the bottom of that is a little bit of red. I'm going to use just a tiny bit of this maroon in here. Just drop that in like that. Just the tiniest little bit. I could have gone with a different color, but I think by the time I get color in the water here, let's see, what am I going for? I need an ultramarine, which is probably this one. By the time I get some color in the water, and by the time I get everything going here, I think this red's going to stand out a little bit better. I just want to give a little bit more color right here along the middle, but in here it looks to me like there's a little bit of ultramarine. I'm just going to drop that in. And there's no right, there's no wrong for this. I'm just dropping some color in here as I think it's in there. There's a little buckle at the top. If I look at that, I've got some nice color here, and quite honestly, some of it looks the same color as the wood behind it. I'm going to drop it on very lightly, and I'm going to let that mix into a little bit of our blue. Just there we go, just like that. Alright, already our boat is taking shape. Now I'm looking at my picture. I want to stay away from the wet that I've got on here. My brown, my wood color here is starting to dry out. If I look at my picture, let's see, I hope you can see this. There's a light color of blue on the inside of these rails. So I'm going to try and paint that in, kind of with our same boat color. If I need to, I can drop down a brush size. This is a size number 4 brush. See, I'm going to use cerulean for this also. And pretty light. Let's see, can I mix it on screen? There we go. And let's see, I'm just going to, that's even too dark. I can tell that's too dark. I'll just drab a little bit of water on top of that and pull that forward. I think as it comes forward, it should get a little bit more intense. And if I can keep my finger out of the paint I just painted down here while I do this, that would be a great thing. There we go, and I need to come up right along this railing. We push that out of the way. There we go. We're just trying to add a little bit of depth and a little bit of color to this. Right on the inside. I just went outside that line. I can dab it off. It's still wet. There we go. I think that's better. Some nights I can paint, some nights I can't paint very well. I guess it's yet to be determined what tonight is, but so far we're doing good. Okay, so I'm going to, what am I going to do next? I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to come back into my wood here. It's gotten a lot drier. I'm going to mix up something a little bit darker. I'm going to go with some burnt umber. Back it out. Whoa, back it out so you can see what I'm doing here. Alright, some burnt umber. There we go. Get that. It's a little dry. It takes a bit to activate it. And I'm going to put in a little bit of my ultramarine. Which one did I say was my ultramarine? I've got to count over 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got to be this one. And ultramarine and burnt umber give us a nice dark, kind of a grayish color. But if I use a little bit less ultramarine and more of the burnt umber, it's just going to darken that color up for us. And you're still going to get some of that darkening, and when you put it on the paper, you'll get a little bit of blue in there. It's going to look okay. It's going to look good. So what I'm going to do now is everywhere that I've got a deep shadow, I'm going to drop a little bit of this paint in there, a little bit of this color in there, and we're very quickly going to make a pretty effective dark shadow area back here. There we go. Let's see, that comes out to there, that shadow. Where the paint goes, only the shadow knows. Alright, well, it was a bad joke. Okay, continuing on, let's see, I know that right up under these rails, it's pretty dark. Put that back there. I didn't check. I hope you guys can see what's going on. I hope you're close enough. If you're not, I'm going to make you a lot closer right now. And let's see, I'm going to come up just under these rails really. There we go. I'm going to do that, and what I'm going to do also is just blend that edge out. It's going to be right up under that rail. You're going to be able to see it. I need to turn this just a little bit. But it's going to help that blue get set off. But it's going to be a nice, soft, shadowy line underneath there. There we go. And so you can see underneath that seat, there's a nice bit of shadow, and I'm going to put some of this right along these rails here, the ribs, I guess we could say, the ribs of this boat. There's a little shadow around this box on this rib. Is there a rib on over there? There we go. There's got to be one up here somewhere. Let's see, this one probably comes all the way across. Right up to the side, right up there. There we go. Now we're starting to get a little bit of depth in here. I'm going to soften just barely. And if I can't, if it's not going to go because it's gotten a little too dry, that's okay. Just soften one little edge of that. I'm going to come back and just draw in that center board there underneath the seat. And I'm going to actually draw in the edge to my seat. Right across there, and that's all going to help to give that a little bit of depth and a little bit of feeling back there. Alright, so what do we have to go? We've got a box in the center, and what color do I want to make that? You know what, I'm going to make that turquoise. It's a nice bright box. Let's see. There we go. It's a nice bright box. Going to give it a nice bright color. There it is. Staying zoomed in so you can see, hopefully. And I'm going to do this one coat, and then I'm going to come back and give the other coats where our shadows are, or maybe not the shadows, but the dark side of the box. There we go. You see, that's a nice bright box we got there. Okay, what else do we have? I've got to put on this railing over here, and I'm going to use I have a deep cerulean on here. I'm going to use that. Happens to be this tray. Looks a lot like that cerulean, just a little bit deeper. Not too much. So I've got that mixed. I'm just going to come in here and... Come on, be brave. run that in. I'm going to do this in two sections. I'm going to do it at 2 times because I want there to be a little shadow on one side of this. And so I'm going to put this on, I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to put the same color on just over top of it, and with any luck, that's going to really help to add a shadow line. There it is. That one's not too bad. Okay, so we got this other side to do over here. Let's put that on. Just trying to concentrate when I'm on this side. I hope you're not looking at the top of my head, actually. I don't think the top of my head's all that exciting. Hope you're looking at what I'm doing on the paper. Get over here. Alright, I got that just about right over here. Trying to be really careful, and then one long shot from the back. It's a little hard because I can't see it. Straight, well, a little waver in that railing. That's not so bad. A little bit of waver. It's an old boat. It's got a little bit of quiver to it, I think. Okay, I'm going to let that dry for just a second, and I need to start thinking about the water that we have here. Let's put the picture back. Let me zoom out just a little bit. So, what I'm thinking is that back here is a little bit more greenish, if you can see, and up here it's a little bit more bluish. So what I'm going to do is try to get blue. I'm going to kind of stick with my cerulean blue, but I'm going to mix some phthalo green into it back here, and I think up here, if I mix anything into it, it's going to be just a little bit of ultramarine, and hope to pull that close a little bit. But I need to get a slightly larger paintbrush so I can do a little bit more at a time. This is, I don't know if you've ever seen me use this. This is a Winsor Newton University Series number 12 brush, and you can see, where's my big number 6? It is quite a bit bigger. So I'm going to go with this, and let me mix up, let me get a good mix going here. Phthalo green. There we go. That's a nice color. I like the M-gram phthalo green. That's a fantastic color. I'm going to go back to my light cerulean. And you do have to be a little careful when you work with cerulean, because cerulean is an opaque color instead of a transparent color. And so if you put it on, it doesn't like to come back off again. So you've got to kind of be a little bit careful about how you do it. And what I want to do is just get some color on here. We're going to come back and add the darks in just a second. But I want to get some color on here, and I need to move some things around so I can get a good angle in here. There we go. That's not so bad. And again, keeping some phthalo green in here so it stays a little bit greener in the back. And I want it to be nice and wet. It doesn't need to be, I want to keep a wet edge over here too. It doesn't need to be heavy at this point. There we go. We can darken it up when we need to, if we need to. When we move into, when we start, I should say, to put on some details, just run that right up next to the boat. Get that really nice and close there. and I'm trying not to go over. There's a little knot in the rope right here, and I'm trying to go around. I'm gonna give a little green up here. I know I said I was gonna do ultramarine, if anything, and I'm still probably gonna do a little bit of that, but I don't, if the water's green back there, and we've got a little bit of green on our boat, I probably ought to put, I should say, let me say it that way, I probably ought to put in a little bit of green next to our boat. And I'm going to mix a little bit of my ultramarine. Whoa, that came out like all ultramarine. Where'd my cerulean go? I'll mix a little bit of ultramarine in there. There we go. That's pretty good. That's a nice color, a nice base color to start with right around this boat. All right, and so what do we want to do now? I think what I want to do now, while I'm waiting, I'm going to go back to my turquoise. And I've got two sides of this box I can paint. Here and over here. There we go. Our shadow's kind of coming this way. You can see that clearly from our boat. What happened? All of a sudden something flipped onto my page. Get off. What is it? I don't know what that is. So our shadow's kind of... Alright, my apologies. I had a little bit of technical difficulty. My camera ran out of battery. It had 4/5 of a battery when I started. Obviously, a few of those fifths weren't as full as they used to be or should be, and I've had to go with my backup camera. I'm not sure what you missed. I won't know until I sit down and start editing. So let me backtrack. Our shadow for the boat is going to be towards us. So I'm going to make these two sides of this little box in the center, which is kind of a fun little thing. A bit darker, so I'm going to put on a second layer, and when the first one gets all dry, when this layer gets all dry, I will darken up the darkest side of that box. Okay, so what I'm going to do in the meantime, now that you know that our shadow comes this way, what I'm going to do is I am going to put a shadow on our railing here. Right on around. Just a line. I'm not going to monkey with it too much. There it is. I'm not gonna try and get crazy and do some fancy shading. And nothing like that. Just a simple straight line. Where am I going to? Right on back, just something to denote that there's a shadow line. There we go. There we go. That'll do it. Okay, now we've got the harder parts to do, the more interesting parts maybe, if you think like that. What we need to do is start with our major shadow, and I'm going to start to mix some of that up. I'm going to take my cerulean. I'm going to try this for a second. I'm just going to take my cerulean. There it is. Get a nice mixture of that. And I know that with ultramarine, if I mix my burnt umber, I get a nice dark shadowy color, a nice gray. But can I get that with this cerulean and get anything that I like to see like that? And I think, let me zoom in here, I think the answer is no. I get this pasty gray color, which is not something I want. So I'm going to switch to ultramarine and do the same thing with ultramarine. There we go. Let's get a good mix of it going there. And now when I mix my burnt umber, I get a really nice kind of blue-gray if I want it, or a brown-gray. I can make it warmer, I can make it colder, however I want to do that. And it doesn't look all pasty and nasty. I shouldn't say nasty, it's just different. But it's because the cerulean color up here has titanium white in it. I believe cerulean is just ultramarine with white in it, and you get the cerulean color. But so I can mix, oh, I just mixed turquoise in there, so we're going to start over. I can mix my ultramarine and make a nice bluey color. I can make a nice warm color, whatever I want. I'm going to leave it a little bit more on the blue side here, and I'm probably going to mix in a little bit of my phthalo green as I go along with this. But I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to drop some of this color in here. There we go, just like that. And I'm going to take it back almost as far as that shadow goes. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but I'm going to vary my color a little bit. Let's see, right to about there, something like that. And I'm going to drop down to a smaller brush at this point in time, and I'm going to start to paint out this way. Oh, you can't see me. I'm going to start to paint out this way so it looks like ripples on the water, and I'm just kind of looking at my picture to see what the general shape, how far out and in I should come. Now on our picture, the shadow color of our boat doesn't have any white in here, inside in here for quite a while, but if you paint yours and you have a highlight area in there, don't worry about it. It's nothing that's wrong. There could easily be a highlight reflected in there. It just didn't show up on the picture that we're painting from. And as I get more to the outside, as I get further down, what's a better way to say it? I've got a few more holes in the ripples, so there's some of that lighter color shining through. I don't know, something like that. I guess maybe I didn't take my water down quite far enough here, but that's okay. I'm just gonna clean up any edges that you want in here. Now's a great time to do that. There we go, just like that. And we need to go back. I'm going to go back to my bigger brush, and I'm going to take some more of my original color mix, which was cerulean and phthalo green. There we go. And I'm going to give myself a few ripples back here. Oh, something like this. There's something in that water back there. Just let your brush kind of dance off of that water. Just straight lines across. You don't need to do anything too fancy with it. There's no need. You can make more, you can make less. You can vary the color. The only thing we don't want to do is have it get too dark. As we come down to the front, we want this, the area here, to be the focal point. So we don't want to bring too much dark ripple color. We don't want too much dark ripple color. Invading into our other colors, but maybe a little bit here and there, because the waves are still rippling. I never knew that talking about ripples on the water would be so difficult. Just getting a little bit of color going back and forth. Let's see, let's get a little bit, I'm going to get a little bit more in here. I want to fill out this back portion up here a little bit more. And we can take a couple of these and go right to the boat with them. Gotta be a little careful. Takes a little bit of bravery to do that. Okay, and so at this point what we can do is, if we really want to, we can look back at this and we can say, well, this is good, but I think my original shadows aren't dark enough. So if you wanted to, you could come back and re-darken some of these. What it would do is it would help to push that back. It would make these shadows a little more pronounced and make the seat stand out a little bit more. It would make the back of the boat up here stand out a little bit more. There you go. I think I had a little bit more brown in there. I could mix that up with a little bit more of the brown. You can make it a warmer shadow. You can make it a cooler shadow. However you think it needs to be, whatever kind of shadow you think needs to be on there, you can do it. There we go. And you could rework some of the shadows on these ribs in here or up underneath the rail. If you think that needs a little bit more, there's lots of extra details you could put on here if you needed to, or if you wanted to, if your color wasn't quite dark enough. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to get my turquoise, and I need to add the shadow side of that box. There we go. Now we've got a box that has 3 sides to it. I'm not sure why we have that little tiny box in the center. And if we wanted to, we could come back with our cerulean mix. Now I'm just kind of playing. I realized that. I'm just kind of playing, but we could come back and we could strengthen the values down here. I should get a bigger brush for this. And then draw that out a little bit. Don't want it to run though. There you go. If you think that that needs a little bit of extra color in there, we can do that. I'm just gonna draw this out pretty far. Go ahead and clean this, and there we go. That looks good. Let me try that on this side. See if we can't get it. I like to use a little brush has a little better point on it to get in there. There we go. And then one with a little bigger, you know, little few more bristles to help slide that paint around and let it do what it's going to do in there. There you go. And I'm going to do this again separately. I'm going to put a little bit of color right on underneath here. And I'm going to take just the tiniest bit of ultramarine. I'm going to get a smaller brush. And I'm going to give a shadow underneath our front edge, the bow. I know a few nautical terms. Not many. I'm mostly a landlubber. I can admit to that. Let's see if I can get just a small now I've got too much. I need to take a little bit of it off. I'll wash my brush, get it wet, and scrape down and you can take a lot of that color off of there. Or you can scrub it all the way down, blend it all the way down. I did end up with a bit more on there than I wanted to. My brush had a lot more moisture on it than I thought it was going to, but I think by the time we're done blending it, it'll be fine. Gonna add just, where's my maroon color? No, not maroon. Orange color. Got some weird marks up here. Obviously it's a little rust. Come down the boat. What do we need to do here? What we need to put a rope on here. I'm gonna mix up a quick orange. I've moved down to a pretty small brush. This is a number 1. And I'm going to use quinacridone rose and a little bit of gamboge, and it should give me an orangey color. I think that will work for this rope that comes through if I put it on while it's dry. I wish somebody would have told me about that. I forgot to let that dry. I don't know if I can save it. Oh, that's horrible. Okay, well, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to remix my paint over here. I'm going to mix a little bit of ultramarine blue and a little bit of this phthalo green. And I'm going to draw with that a couple of lines using my smallest brush. I'll let you see this. I'm going to try to draw a couple of lines on here, like that's ropes all knotted up. Hope that makes sense what that is. And I'm going to, I want that to dry, come on. What can I do while I'm waiting? I can give a little bit more color to my seat. And any tiny little details that you want to put on here. Some other ribs. Ribs go in a different direction. like that. You got the beam coming right down the center that I didn't really put in. Just a few dots here and there might really help out. And I'm still wet. I want to put my rope on. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. No, I'm not going to do it. I was going to tell you I'm going to sign my picture, but I'm not done with it. I really don't want to sign it before I'm done. So I'm going to make sure I get a nice thick orange. And I'm going to try to put that on because it looks like it's mostly dried up. Or it's dried enough anyways that we can paint a rope and then I'm going to try to paint it. I'm going to get it, tell you what, I'm going to get it a little bit more watery, my orange, and I'm going to paint it as though it's kind of in the water but going out that way. And there we go. I'm going to sign this one and call this one done. I am so sorry about the faulty camera. I hope that didn't ruin the fun that you had painting a sailboat along with me. I had a great time painting with you. I hope to see you back here in the studio again sometime real soon, painting again with me. Until then, have a good night. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.